So here we are in Denmark today, and it's beautiful weather, and we're here with Mola and her lovely mare. And today we're going to talk about all-blood conformation and horses that have a short rib cage and an upright shoulder. Now, this horse looks like she has a long back, and actually there's a good space to put a saddle because the shoulder is upright. So the saddle will fit here, just behind the shoulder, and the last rib, T18, is here. So actually there's a reasonable amount of space, but it's not because of the length of the rib cage in this case, it's because the shoulder is upright. But with an upright shoulder, of course, you have a forward girth groove quite often, but this will give the opinion that the saddle is sitting very forward on the horse. So we'll put a saddle on and then have a look and see where the saddle should fit. So here's the saddle, and the position that it fits is, of course, like every other horse, which is just behind the shoulder. So I'm just going to go around to the other side so Sarah can just show us where the position of the shoulder is.
She's sat up a bit more now.
So there we are. There's the shoulder. And of course you can see then the girth groove will line up from there. So we're just going to put saddle pad on because the mare is very sensitive. It's a very thin saddle pad, so it won't affect the saddle fit. And again, the saddle is positioned behind the shoulder. And Dean's just going to go to that. So here we have Sarah, who's horse massage therapist, or masseuse as they're called here in Denmark. And Sarah's just going to point out to us the position of the shoulder, and also we can see where the girth groove is and where the girth sits, and also the last rib, where that actually is on the horse. So this is a 17-inch saddle. We could probably have got a 17.5 on here, but Mola isn't very big, so 17 is what is suitable for her. But as you can see, it now looks like there's a lot of horse behind the saddle. So now we're going to have a riding test with walk, trot and canter. And with horses like this, where they're very powerful behind, but this is a young horse in training, so she's not so lifted in front as they often are. So in horses like this, you sometimes see an issue where the saddle will go forward. But the riding test will actually show us whether the saddle actually has gone forward or whether it's just the appearance on the horse, because as you can see, it actually does look like it's forward before we even start. But as I say, it is lined up with the shoulder. And if you have a look, you can actually see the shoulder moving in front of the saddle. It's also very important to check that the girth is firm with a horse like this, because of course it's the only thing that's actually holding the saddle in place. So if we could have the canter when you're ready, Mola. And you can see the way the horse moves and the way she is conformationally, that the tendency would be for the saddle to actually go forward. But what we're going to do when we remove the saddle is we're going to have a look at the hair, which will tell us whether the saddle actually has moved, because this is actually because of the length of the horse behind the saddle, it can be an optical illusion as to whether or not the saddle's gone forward. So we're just going to wait. That's fine, thank you. And we'll just go and take the saddle off and we'll see what we get. How did that feel this time?
Feels good.
Right. Dean, somebody take saddle off for me just so that I can film what we've got. So again, you can see the shoulder here in front of the saddle. I'm just going to go around to the other side. Oh, no, I'm not. And what we can see here is we've actually got nice flat hair. So the saddle, the hair hasn't actually been, normally what you see is this type of thing if the saddle has gone forward. It means that this is actually quite nice and smooth. So here we are still in Denmark at Kasper Moller's yard, and this is Christina and Margarita, and again we're looking at the conformation. And Margarita again has the upright shoulder, although the girth groove is not quite so forward. But what is interesting comparison between Margarita and Gina is what Gina has is a very long rib cage. So she might look like she has a shorter back than the horse we've just looked at. But when we look at the ribs come right to the stifle. Right up to the stifle. I can actually, the fist is actually on the stifle. And there is the edge of the rib cage, and that makes the T18 here just before it raises into the croup. So again, Dean's going to put the saddle on. So this is a horse with, again, quite a forward shoulder, an upright shoulder, and the girth groove is here. But as you can see, the lumbars are shorter, and you have a long rib cage. Now I think in England sometimes we refer to that as being ribbed up. So you've got the horse here with a long rib cage and a short back, which is actually a lot easier to saddle. So here we have the saddle on. Sarah, if you could point out again for me the shoulder.
Shoulder here.
Here's the shoulder.
Right.
And the girth. And also the last rib.
That's right. Going up there.
It's quite amazing the difference, isn't it, in the rib cage on these two horses, although, yeah, right up. So this is Christina's new Comfort Elite Cadence with Italian leather. So if you'd like to get on and have a ride for me, that would be lovely. And I think Margarita is also learning under the saddle at the moment, isn't she, Sarah? So as we can see, it's a very different look when you have a saddle on this horse with the long rib cage. Still have the upright shoulder, but the saddle looks in a much more better place. That is visually. So when you're ready, if we could just see some trot and some canter, but there's no rush. And we can see the difference between the two horses. They're both quite novice horses, but as you can see that Margarita is less active behind than Gina, and she's also slightly more up in front. So what we're getting is a very different picture, because the horse is moving differently and also conformationally different. And I think when Christina goes into canter, what you'll see is you don't have the appearance so much that the saddle is too far forward, because we haven't got so much space behind. And again, you can still see the shoulder as she's riding. So if you wouldn't mind a bit of canter when you're ready. Yeah. New saddles always bed down well with the first ride.
I'm not gonna fall off.
No.
Feel a lot different with the Italian doodle.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, very.
It's sort of slightly sticky.
Yeah.
So it's great for holding your leg, and particularly on the big moving Warmblood, it can actually sort of give you a little bit of grip on something that's moving a lot. Lovely, thank you. There we are, and as we can see in canter, very, very different appearance. As I say, this is due to the conformation of the horse. Gina actually finds it much more difficult to collect because of the shape of her conformation. That's lovely. Does that feel good?
Yeah, very good.
Excellent, thank you.
This is a 10-year-old mare who's been kind of tense riding. She's been unwilling to put her head down and using her back, but after she got the Comfort Elite Cadence saddle, she's been more willing to lift her back and go into the work, and now she fitted this new saddle to her. I can see that. First thing, Christina's positioning is all different. She's gotten so much better on her because she pulls up her upper body. But the thing is with the horse that when it doesn't fit, the saddle has the tendency to go a little bit forward on it and down on the front. And when it doesn't fit, she gets so tense in the neck, she doesn't want to be anywhere in the front. And this is a good example of how this works. It sits so nicely behind the shoulder and it stays in the same place all the time.
So here we are with our third horse, and this is a pony, and this pony belongs to Winnie.
Sasha.
And Sasha. And as you can see, the shoulder is very different. The shoulder is quite sloping. There's quite a slope on the scapula here, which means that actually the saddle actually sits further back, and also the girth groove is further back. So even though the pony is a lot shorter than the horses, what we've got here is, again, this is a very long rib cage. So this horse is very ribbed up. T18 is just in front of the croup, and right up, the rib cage is right up to the stifle. So again, what we have here is long rib cage and short lumbars.